Welcome to the ArchieLuxury channel. Today I'd like to talk about a new concept, which is starting a business in luxury goods. And I've often thought about it myself. You know, I'd really like to throw in the towel with my job and concentrate on something I love, which is, in my case, is luxury goods. And you know, I really could do it. You know, I really could start my own business, but look, it's not an easy thing, and you know, you've got to decide what you want to do. So let's just have a bit of a cap of what you'd do if you wanted to start your own business. And I've spoken to a few really experienced people. I've got a few friends who run vintage watch shops, and I've also got a friend who's a multi-millionaire, and he made a lot of money in the watch business, and I've spoken to them from time to time, and you know, I've got a few street smarts myself, and I haven't done it yet, but you know, I just wanted to share this with my YouTube audience. And there's reasons why I probably don't want to do it. So let's just have a bit of a talk about it. And one of the things, look, if you really wanted to start a luxury goods business, one of the best key bits of advice I could give to anyone is to concentrate on one item alone. And I gotta say this, out of all the luxury goods I've dealt with, probably the strongest item is Rolex. Rolex watches are the strongest item that's wanted. That doesn't mean they're the best watch in the world. As I've said, Patek Philippe and a range of other brands are so much better than Rolex. But we're talking about what would you do if you wanted to start your own luxury goods business. And that's what I would do. I would concentrate on selling pre-owned Rolex watches. The other bit of advice that I think is very, very worthwhile doing is that you're best to concentrate on one thing alone. Now, what I mean by that is, in my own collection itself, I've got some Louis Vuitton. I've got Louis Vuitton hard case. I've got pieces for my wife. I've got jewelry, pieces like diamonds, pearls, gold, and then I've got watches, and it's a scattering of brands. And you've really got to decide for yourself: are you a business or are you an enthusiast / collector? And for me, what I'd be better off doing, if you really wanted to start a luxury goods business, you'd be better off concentrating on one key brand, Rolex, divesting out of other things, putting all that money into having a good inventory of Rolex pieces. And that's really, if you're really serious about starting a business, that's the way you do it. And I mean, look, you wouldn't necessarily need to have a shop. You could start off part-time, but you would need to run some advertisements saying, hey, I'm selling Rolex, pre-owned Rolex watches, blah 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 blah. And that's really the essence, what you should do. Now, you might say to me, well, Archie, why don't you do that? You've got a bit of a collection of sorts, and you could certainly do better than working for the boss for money. And this is where it becomes a bit of a dangerous line there. In my case, there, I'm probably more of a collector than a dealer. And what I mean by that is, I like to have a Patek. So if I was doing this as a business, you'd want to turn it over. Whereas I really love my Patek. I love it for what it is. It's a Patek, it's white gold, it's an oversized Calatrava, it's got crown guards, it's just a gorgeous thing. Well, if you're a businessman, you'd look at it and say, well, the only thing I collect is 50s and 100s, and it's a piece of stock, and it needs to have a stock turn. And I've got a scattering of brands there. See, I've got
brands like Audemars Piguet. Now that's a great brand for a mature market that understands what the fuck an AP is. I live in Australia. If you want to make money in watches, you've got to go to the lowest possible common denominator, which is Rolex. So I should I should flick some of those pieces, and it gets more complicated. You say okay, and then what you do is you have, then I've got to get rid of some of my briefcases, keep one or two, but flick the rest, and that's quite a hard decision to make. So, you know, you've got to sort of say to yourself, do you want to work for yourself or do you want to be a collector? And in my case there, I mean, look, I love my luxury goods, and I can certainly see the problem, the dilemma that I have, the moral dilemma I have. I love the things, and I mean, you can't fall in love with your stock that much, and I really, some of the pieces I've got, I really love them, and but again, as I've explained there, for reasons that's not the best investment strategy if you want to start a business, not the best strategy to follow. If you really wanted to follow your dream, you'd sell everything off, put it all into Rolex stock, and put some ads and do what you could to do that. And yeah, I've been a bit tempted at times. I mean, I actually had my own business for about 13 years, and it's something I really I did really enjoy working for myself. But you know, again, looking at things, you kind of sometimes, you know, I can earn good money with the IT skills that I have, and I'd have to earn a lot of money to earn the same. And I know it's not all about money, but it's kind of like you know, the other thing too is when you're a dealer, you end up selling the really nice, interesting things. I like to hold things back, savor and enjoy them. And that's kind of missing the point when you're a dealer. When you're a dealer, you're trying to turn it over, get the next piece in. And look, it's not impossible. I mean, I'd if I wanted this business to really go, I'd go to Hong Kong, get pieces from Hong Kong, maybe Japan, and Singapore maybe, and flick them. But I mean, retail punters, they can be fairly frustrating fuckers to deal with too. I mean customers can be cunts. I mean, let's not gild the lily there. I mean, I say this, I've got a strong customer focus, but you know, let's not fucking pull each other's chain. Customers can be assholes at times, and you know, I'm certainly not advocating that they're great, but yeah, it's a thing. I suppose it's something I could seriously do there, and I have tried businesses in watches on my own, and it's been a good, I like to say, well look, I've virtually paid for my collection from my trading, so you know, it's not all wasted. I've got a fairly reasonable collection of stuff that I've acquired, but yeah, it's one of these things. You sort of look at it, if you really wanted to take it to the next level, that's what you do. Instead of having a scattering of things like a personal collection, like I've got, let's have a look at some things I'd flick off. Well, look, Archie. Well, what you'd do is you'd get rid of all the non-Rolex stock, and you'd turn it into Rolexes. Same for the ladies. You'd get rid of all the non-Rolex stock, turn it into Rolexes. The next thing you do, I've got a collection of Cartier clocks that are absolutely mint. I mean, I've searched years for these things. I've got about 4 of them. I mean, you just flick those off and put that money into Rolex inventory. The Louis Vuitton hard case, you'd say, you'd hum about that and say, oh, do you really? You may keep one or two pieces, but flick the rest. The anything surplus, you'd just get rid of. I've got a huge library of Louis Vuitton books and literature. You'd flick. A lot of non-core stuff, you'd just flick. The diamonds, you'd say, well, okay, how many does your wife really need? An engagement ring, and say a pair of earrings. Everything else, flick. That'll bring money in to advertise the business, and also to buy Rolex stock. And you might say, well, okay, well then, Archie, how much stock would you need to run a good business? Okay, so if I was starting a business from scratch, how many pieces ideally would you have? Well, I would say that you would have a men's. I found the sapphire models to be better than the plasticky ones. So I'd be saying, okay, I'd go for a men's steel Datejust with white gold bezel, two-tone Datejust sapphire. I'd go for a day-date men's. I'd go for you'd want a couple of sports like a GMT, a Submariner, Explorer 2. You're looking on the ladies' side. Definitely have a steel ladies Datejust with white gold bezel, a two-tone ladies Datejust, a mid-size steel, mid-size two-tone, ladies President with diamond dial. So that's 10 really good pieces. You might also supplement that stock there by having, say, some a couple of 6694s. That's the simple Rolex Oyster Date, manual wind but with a date function. They were popular early 80s. That's a good entry level piece. You'd have one or two of those. You could have anything else special, like you'd have a Sea Dweller or something like even a white gold President, if you could get one of those, or say a two-tone sub. Two-tone sub would be a definite good thing to have. So there you go. That's about 15 pieces of stock, and that'd give you a good stock holding to have there. And look, I'd be inclined. I'd be if I wanted to establish a business, I'd put some ads in the paper. I'd also develop a website selling product. I'd also be trying some letterbox drops, maybe in some high wealth areas or at some ritzy areas, like say the Gold Coast. That's the sort of things that I'd be trying to do to get this business off the ground. I think you could certainly make a good go of it, and as long as you didn't have to borrow money. In my case, I could virtually buy that stock by selling off my collection and redirecting the funds into Rolex stock. But is it something you want to do? This is the thing you've got to say to yourself. Well, it's a hard one. I've got a beautiful collection. I love my Patek, and I am, as I'm recording this, I'm wearing my Explorer 2, and it's Rolex stock's lovely, but it's a hard one. I kind of I would like to work for myself. I've done it. I've done it for 13 years. I worked for myself, and I think it's a hard thing to do because I have a love for many things, and I don't want to borrow money to buy the stock, and that's probably the biggest thing with it. And you've got to be a bit cautious. You have to be very security conscious. There's a lot of things you've got to do, but I don't have a problem with doing that in the business. But that's my thoughts. That's how I would, if I was going to start a new business in this day and age. That's what I'd be looking at doing, and I think it's possible. I think you could make a reasonable living out of it. It's something that you've got to try and see. The other thing is too, if you as long as you didn't
sign up for a lease or anything like that, you could always turn your stock into cash relatively easy. I mean, you could always sell it back into Hong Kong if it didn't sell. You might lose, 5%, but you're really not going to lose a huge amount. It's going to be all fairly well done there. So yeah, that's my ideas on how you could make money with a watch business in 2012. Economy's a bit flat, but people are always after a bargain, and I think a brand like Rolex is where it's at. That's a lot of strong pulling power to that. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know. I'm Archie Luxury. Tell me what you think. See you later.